You want to find that drive and focus that has you locked in and on fire every single day? My book, The Mirror Motivation, will do it for you. I bought a copy for you. You take care of the shipping. The book is free. Click the link down there. I got you.
DreAllDay.com.
Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. On the heels of the previous video where I talked about getting your ass kicked, I want to talk about getting challenged. And in life, we all will, if you're trying to do anything, if you're trying to do anything of consequence, you're going to be challenged. And when I say challenge, you could be challenged in a lot of ways. You could be challenged by another person, like a coach or a trainer or an opponent or an adversary, an enemy. You can be challenged that way. You can be challenged by a situation, by a circumstance. You can be challenged by something internal, by your own self-doubt can challenge you. You could be challenged when you're not feeling as mentally tough as you want to feel. You can be challenged when you don't really feel like doing the thing that you know you're supposed to be doing right now. Those are all challenges, but you have to be challenged in order to grow. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because one of the biggest challenges that I see happening in our society these days is often we don't want to be challenged, or we don't want to see people who we like being challenged. For example, you talk about a celebrity as a LeBron James or somebody famous, Jay-Z, or somebody who's in that, I don't even know what to call it. Let's just say the culture of the hip hop culture. Well, hip hop culture is not just rap music. Is basically encompass sports, music, pop culture, fashion, entertainment. We don't want to see any of those people being challenged because they're like, celebrities, they're heroes to us. They're people that I'm not saying me personally, but as a culture, we look up to. And those of you who are from outside of the culture, maybe you will understand exactly what I'm saying still. We don't want to see those people challenged. Like LeBron James did the dunking thing in the AAU line for his son's game, and some people said he shouldn't do it, and some people said he should do it, and people kind of ran to attack the person who said he shouldn't do it, but they were just sharing an opinion, and it's okay to share an opinion. It's okay for somebody to have an opinion that's different from yours. It's okay for somebody to have a point of view that is the exact opposite, diametrically opposed to yours. It's okay for somebody, when you do something, to question you on what you're doing and force you to have to stand on what you did and answer for what you did in such a way that you can explain it, like, this is what I did, this is why I did it, this is the thought process behind it, this is the strategy behind it, here's the next step from it. You need to be challenged that way, because here's the thing. If you're not being challenged that way, you're just doing whatever you want to do, however you want to do it, here's something I guarantee you: you will not be performing at your optimal level. You will not be the best that you could possibly be if you're not being challenged. If nobody's looking at your website and saying to you, yo, why is it designed this way? Why you got this button on this side when it should be on this side? Why you have all this stuff on it when it should only just be this? Why don't you do it this way? Why don't you use this over here? Why don't you set it up in this way instead of set it up in that? If you're not doing that, you're probably not gonna have the best website you could possibly have, right? If you're a person who goes to the gym every day and you don't have anyone who maybe looks at your workouts or looks at your body or looks at your performance if you play a sport and say, well, look, you could be jumping a little bit higher, you could be moving a little bit faster, your hips are a little bit too tight, it looks like your upper body is a little bit too bulky, you need to let some of that muscle go down, you need to work on your conditioning and get your cardio up a little bit. If you don't have anybody saying those things to you, what are you gonna do? You're gonna keep doing the things you've always been doing because you don't have anyone questioning you. No one's challenging you. You look in the mirror, you're like, I look good. You post a picture on Instagram, you're getting all these likes. You're like, I'm good, I'm perfect. But if you're not being challenged, you won't know that you're not perfect. You'll fool yourself into believing that everything you're doing is right and perfect and there's nothing wrong with it because you're not being challenged. This is why we all need to be challenged in life. A famous person needs to be challenged. A nobody motherfucker needs to be challenged. A person that's losing needs to be challenged. A person that's winning needs to be challenged. And if you go look at the stories, the backstories of the most successful people that you can think of, whoever you consider to be successful, look at their backstories. I guarantee every single one of them had a circle of people around them, whether it was a small circle or a large circle of people who that known person, that successful person, was willing to be challenged by. They had somebody around them who they were okay being challenged by. If you look at sports, every athlete who plays a sport has a coach. Every single one of them. Michael Phelps had a coach. He was an individual sport. He had a coach. What's the girl's name who's like the gymnastics superstar? Simone Biles, or I think it's Biles. She has a coach. Every day when she's in that gym, somebody's in there with her coaching her. She ain't just in there by herself. Maybe she does her own work by herself, but she has a coach who's training her on, all right, what's our next level? What's the next thing that we can do? Of course, team sports, everybody has a coach. Football, baseball, basketball, hockey, they all have coaches. Soccer team, coaches. Weightlifters have coaches. Who else? people who write books. They have other people who read their books, editors. An editor is a coach. When I wrote this book, Work on Your Game, you know how long it took from the time I signed the contract for this book to the time it actually came out? I wrote this book and I signed the contract for this book in the summer of 2017. It didn't come out till February 2019. You know why it took so damn long? Not because it took me long to write. I wrote this book, and this book is like 250 pages. I wrote twice as many pages as this book ended up being. I wrote this in 30 days. As long as this is, I wrote twice as much as this in 30 days. Why? Because writing is just a talent of mine. I had a whole lot in my mind I just need to get out on paper. So I got a whole nother book as big as that book that I could put out right now, a material that didn't make it into that book. Why did it take so long? Because I had coaches. They weren't called coaches, they called them editors in the published world. The editor does what? Any of you ever worked with an editor, or you are an editor, you're a journalist, you know what an editor does. They look at the stuff that you wrote, then they critique it, they tell you what they think, they tell you move this right here, delete this right here, you need to make this story, you need to fill out this story a little bit more, this is a good point, but we need something illustrative about it so people can kind of absorb it. This right here doesn't make any sense, cut that out. You need to write more about this right here. Why don't you tell a little bit more story about this, or why don't you add a story with this, what about some research on this point? You're saying this is a fact, but you don't have any what's the word? You don't have any sources that prove that that's actually true. That's what editors do. And we went back and forth for a year and a half before that book came out. Again, it took me 30 days to write it. It took, what was that? Basically a year and a half for it to come out. Why? Coaches. You must, and the coaches were challenging me. They were, everything that I just told you that I said they say, those are challenges. Why don't you add more to the story? Why don't you cut this part out? Oh, we don't like this part right here. This doesn't make sense right here. Maybe you shouldn't mention this person, but how about if you use this person instead? Maybe this is too much of a story. Why don't you cut this down to just the essential parts? Those are all challenges. Like, hey, look at this. Take a look at this. Why don't we change this? This can be edited. This is too much. This is too little. You need more of this. You need less of this. All that's being challenged. And that's how you make the best work that you can possibly make. If you just make stuff and it's not being challenged, it's not being critiqued, there is a time and place for that. Like, there's nobody challenging me on what I'm talking about in this video before I put it out. When I do an Instagram story, there's nobody challenging me on that. So there are times for that, and we want to see the B-roll, the behind the scenes stuff that people want to put out. But at the same time, you need that challenge, because that's the only way you're going to do your best work. And if you're not putting your best work out there, that means you're not giving your best. You're not putting your best out to the world. Therefore, you're not going to get your best back from the world. And that's a good enough reason alone that you want to be challenged. So any of you out there who bristles at challenges, meaning you jump back and when a coach says something to you, or when someone questions anything that you do or anything that you say, or you just feel like you got to be able to check yourself on this, is the best way that I can put it. Because it's very easy when, especially if you're a very strong-willed individual or a stubborn individual, it's very easy for anytime someone to question you, for you to find a way to mentally dismiss it and say, oh, they just hating, they don't know what they're talking about, this person's stupid, I never heard of you, what are your credentials to be talking to me? It's very easy for you to think that in your mind anytime somebody says something to you, because you don't feel like anyone is capable or anyone is qualified to challenge you. But somebody got to challenge you. So even if you need to go find that person and vet them, whoever it's going to be, you need someone who can challenge you, that you're not going to question them, because you respect their word, you respect their knowledge, you respect their point of view, you respect their position so much that whatever they say to you, you're going to take it to heart and at least have a discussion with them. Worst case scenario, have a discussion. Best case, do what the hell they tell you to do. And if you don't have that person around you in your life, I guarantee you right now, you are not playing at your full capacity. And that alone, that idea alone, should be enough to move you to action. And if it's not, you watching the wrong video. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com.